Okay, so here's the concept for how to improve the entire world's education system. So basically the concept here is that the entire system would be focused more around combining the aspects of social skills, practical skills, and theoretical skills. Currently, like most of school is focused on theoretical skills, and what little they dedicate in early schools, especially, is to the more social-based skills or practical skills of either very little or very forced. So social skills wise, it's a very forced situation for learning social skills, whereas practical skills, I think I had like 2 classes for art, so yeah, there's barely any of it. So the idea here would be that primary schools would be much more focused on practical and social skills. So the idea here is that, let's say around reception, nursery, whatever you want to call it, like that area, that will be focused solely on social skills. However, the idea here is less so that it's a forced social interaction, but rather an enjoyable situation that you look forward to. So, for example, the idea here is that students, while they'll be encouraged to interact, they'll be with each other, they'll be playing, they've got a variety of toys, they're not forced into any of these positions. The idea here is that it's just a lot more like just encouraged to play with different groups, such things. You'd learn how to start a conversation, you'd learn how to converse, you'd learn how to just generally interact with others. Another part is that throughout that primary school time, you also have a situation where instead of making it so that clubs are a school activity, while they still can be that, it would also be encouraged by the school for parents and students to come up with their own ideas for clubs, come up with their own clubs and start them outside of school. This way, social interaction doesn't become a sort of thing where it's like, oh yeah, I'm only going to have fun with school, and then when I left, I'm just going to be alone. I'm not going to think about my social abilities outside of school in a non-constrained situation. Rather, you learn how to market your idea to other people, and you learn how to view other people's skills at that, and you also learn how to like just generally coexist with others outside of the school situation. There would be multiple other ways during school that they could do it so that they could encourage this sort of behaviour as well. So, for example, there could be maybe a specific lesson where students, maybe they go into the playground or something like that, and all they really do is they just hang out, they do their own thing. It would be like an extended break, but instead it's just purely for, playing with other things. And students would each time be specifically told to go into a different group. They would be told to like just interact with others without anything else. And the way it would work is that you would have people you specifically like, so it would teach you how to bring up proper friends, because you would know that this person is your friend, so you're going to meet with them outside of school. But at the same time, it would teach you how to just like integrate into other groups. It would teach you how to behave in order to just, be with other people. It would make you less socially awkward, socially uncomfortable, and rather just interact with others of your own volition. That would be the early school social skill technique level. When you get into upper schools, I would probably reduce it. I would keep it so that you're still encouraging clubs outside of school to be made. But here, rather, it would be encouraged for actually teaching romantic abilities. Which would, I know, it would be odd, but the idea here would be subtle indications. Maybe just explain what, and don't do it so that you're explaining what to do, because then students will instead learn, oh yeah, that's a thing in regards to relationships, whatever. Like, you will subconsciously end up imitating it. So rather what you'd want to do is, in a lot of relationships, so for example, you could say something like, just randomly or like in a specific situation, you could be like one issue in relationships is that people struggle to do this, or maybe, or rather than say that, you could say in relationships a lot of them have been improved via this. So for example, talking with one another. Don't be overly emotional or some shit like that, but like just learning how to interact with one another so that it's just more of a calm situation. Or maybe teaching students that it's okay to argue. Arguing doesn't automatically mean that you're no longer friends, you're no longer romantic partners, or anything like that. It's just like, I don't know, I'm not the one who would be teaching this shit. But the idea is that you're just doing this more subtly. You don't have a lesson dedicated to romance education or some shit, but rather teachers maybe will give you their own experiences. You'd have to figure out this sort of shit. I'm giving the ideas. I'm not giving you how to do it. That is a job for people. That this would expand the abilities of, organizations and shit. I don't know. But it's not my job to do this. So yes, that's one aspect of it. But you could also talk about, and not only that, it would also prepare you for the future. But really, I can't really expand that much on it because I myself have a limited understanding of romance. So I can't give my ideas for what to do for it. But overall, the idea is that you just teach people how to interact with others and just advertise yourself as a good thing. That would help you in a variety of ways. Moving away from the social skills now, I would want to focus on something more important, which is practical skills in primary school. The practical aspects of primary school would be so important because they are children. They are an age where they like to do things. They don't want to sit on their arse all day and shit. Like, some of them might be okay with theoretical stuff. Don't get me wrong. That's why part of the education would still have to be theoretical, but most of it would be practical. The first skill you'd want to teach any student is how to observe. So, for example, how to take in information from, someone was doing this. So, how do I remember that? How do I recognize that? And how do I implement that into my life? That's observation skills. So, for example, I see someone learning chiseling. You can learn chiseling when fucking ever. But to actually learn those skills and observe those skills, well, you need to know how to observe them. And, it'd be good to have lessons where you're taught that. So, for example, again, this is all done subtly throughout each subject. So, for example, during maths, you could see a position where maths could be used successfully. So, for example, cooking. Cooking is a perfect example. It's to do with the measurements of temperature and how that impacts your food. Add or two a few minutes, take away some temperature, it will change the outcome. And you'll learn how to observe that difference and see why does it change. So you would know how to apply maths. That could get some interest in theoretical aspects of maths and learning how to expand on it. Other aspects would be something like architecture, which is actually another point. I would want to expand on the subjects you learn during primary school. You have 6 years to cover, 5 subjects? I don't know. It's too small of a number of subjects to have for students. Rather, it should be a larger number, because the larger number of subjects you learn, the more skills you could learn from each one. So, for example, what I would want to do is, why not include subjects that include a variety of skills? So, for example, you could have architecture in it, or something similar, engineering, architecture, something like that, and it will just be basic versions of it where you learn some simple skills, but it would introduce you to a variety of other subjects, and you're going to be more interested in something if you've experienced what it can lead to. So, for example, you could have architecture, and I keep going back to it, but that's because that's what I'm passionate about. And that would, but in it, you could hide in the fact that, math skills. You could use it to teach students math skills through practical settings. You could teach them Pythagoras, trigonometry, all these sorts of things, because it's just applicable, which means that your early education, you learn so much more. But before any of that happens, one more change needs to be made other than learning how to observe information. 2 more things, actually. It's how to take information and how to look for information. So the taking information is the most important one. This is literally just learning how to take notes. So learning how to take notes is incredibly important. One example of taking notes is, you get the information, you highlight, you print it out, whatever, to better understand it. Taking information is so important, especially as you grow older. For example, in psychology, there's pages upon pages upon pages that you need to take information from, notes from, and in all honesty, that can all be done in about 2 weeks for both years of content. But if you don't know how to take the notes, it slowly expands time. So what you want to do is, as early as possible, you teach them to take notes, because then, let's say you're learning how to do maths, you will take notes on how you do different things and then different applications. You can expand on your notes over time. So the idea would be here that for each subject or whatever that you have, even if we kept it to the normal number of subjects, you would just be taught how to take that information, and that will help people in the theoretical and practical side of things. The other important thing is to look for information, learn how to do that. So for example, it's a massive difficulty in around GCSE level where teachers will have to teach students basically how to search up information to get the most reliable amount of data. So for example, you don't want students just looking at Wikipedia and being like, oh yeah, you've got the information, but rather look at Wikipedia, look at some random site on your subject, look through the dictionary, etc., and you can find a variety of pieces of information that will add to your understanding and add to your notes to expand on them. Yeah, that's just during primary school. Then GCSE can be improved by just equalising the amount of practical. It should be by secondary school. It should be more of a half and half, because by this time, schools will be mixing and matching, so there's going to be a larger number of theoretical students than before. But also, there's the fact that at this point, students generally tend to die down around this point. They're slowly getting calmer, more mature. So some of them may decide to go more theoretical because they don't actually have that much energy to expend, or they just don't care. I don't know. The reasons are unknown to me because this is new. So the idea here would be that you're mixing a bit of your practical and theoretical knowledge to make kind of like a nice little mixture here. So for example, here you would be taught how to the theoretical aspects of something and the practical aspects like before, but rather than being like, oh yeah, you can learn the theory through practical, it would be more so that you can just experience both options and kind of choose which one you prefer. Maybe you prefer doing, oh yeah, I want to do the maths theoretical course, or I want to do the maths practical course. And during primary school, it would have basically told teachers what you're better with. If you've grown up naturally, instinctively being better at practical stuff, or maybe you've just grown up to enjoy it more than the theoretical stuff, maybe you'll automatically lean towards it in secondary school, and that'll let teachers kind of prepare for it. But yeah, it's an awkward point at this point because it's just difficult to see how you would separate them in that way. It also could literally just be that, because teachers are deciding what lessons you have, it could just be that some lessons will be focused on practical, some will be focused on theoretical. It really just depends on what sort of setting it is. Honestly, it could be all three. And then A-levels, you're choosing what you want to do. Okay, it's A-level or college, and college is just lower, generally you just either have lower aspirations, you have lower grades, something like that. But the idea is it's kind of choosing between theoretical and practical, which I understand, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it's a bit, the college A-level separation can be a bit awkward for students because they worry that they're not going to do as well if they do college rather than A-level, which is honestly completely reasonable. But yeah, I would prefer to avoid that one instead, however. Uni, I haven't been there yet, so I can't comment on it. But from what I see, it's much better in terms of practical and theoretical. So I don't really know if it would have to be changed. But one thing I know would have to be changed is the position for teachers. So, for example, teachers would need to learn how to take notes and teach people how to take notes. So I don't know exactly how the courses work for uni in regards to teachers. However, they would have to be taught much more they would have to all have higher skill levels, even if they went into primary. In fact, they might have to have more skill level in a practical aspect, which would be difficult. So the benefit of this is that because every teacher will have a higher skill level, their pay automatically has to be increased. And also, I'd say change what your schools prefer, because pay is increased generally due to grades. That is the main reason why some schools are paid more than others. It's because they get more grades overall, higher grades. But generally, that's from a small population, and then the rest of the school is getting D's, E's, whatever, and low, shitty grades. What would the aim of this new version of schools would rather be to make a mixture of practical and theoretical schools, and most grades are theoretical. Even practical grades are more of just checking off your checklist to produce your results, rather than learning a variety of skills to actually develop in life. So basically, the pay for schools would have to change to instead be that, while an aspect of it does come from increased grades for theoretical subjects, it would also need to change the system of grading for practical subjects, and also how they are, and increase the importance of these practical subjects. So for practical schools, my apologies, I got cut off there. For practical schools, practical pay, the whole system would have to be changed. The actual mark schemes would have to be changed to rather be then just checking off lists, which honestly, it still would have to be part of it, let's be fair. Checking off like a set of lists for the practical thing would be incredibly important, as it would make sure you know what to follow. However, at the same time, practical skills are often about like how much people actually enjoy them. Architecture is only good if they actually have an enjoyable impact on people who view it. So one of the things you would need to do for it is have others view it. So there would also need to be like a group of, I guess it would just have to see the enjoyable value of it. But you'd also need to view how much the student liked it themselves. Maybe like their project, like the subject itself, and it would just show who should follow the practical route and who shouldn't. And overall, the grade would end up mostly being due to that checklist, but I think it should be more malleable on what would classify as part of the checklist to be most suitable. Because in the end, these practical subjects are generally much more creative, so it needs to look good, the outcome, but also the process needs to look good. It needs to look fun. The person needs to obviously be enjoying themselves. So a small percentage of the grade would still have to be come from that. So yeah, but another thing would be it should be valued on averages rather than the actual outcome. So I wouldn't say it should be based on the range, okay? I don't think that the whole school should be brought down because someone got a really shit grade because they didn't care. But rather instead, it should be just a mean or a medium that should be taken. So for example, a mean would be probably the best because it would take all the values and kind of just find that middle grounds and like of every single value. And medium would be good as well because it would just show you the middle of everything. Although I'm biased to mean. Currently it focuses on mode operation. It would be whatever amount is the... It would be whatever is experienced the most. So for example, the more A's you have, the better like your school is viewed. But rather it should be viewed on, well, if my kid's the middle of the pack, will they still do well? And if that's not the case, why would you want to go to that school? Because you can't guarantee your kid is automatically going to be at the top. Because teachers generally only tend to care about the top and the bottom. And then the bottom just end up entering the middle pack or stay the bottom, and the top end up just staying the top. And the middle learn none of the skills that either group learns. So that's what you want to measure it based off of. It's a simple way of viewing it. So you basically what you want to see is the middle values. Who's at the middle? What is the average value between everyone? That sort of thing. Rather than just who gets them. Oh, are there a bunch of A's in this school? But yeah. Another benefit of all of this is that because they're learning practical skills from a low age, and they would have already had experience, considering the fact that they're learning practical skills, they're going to have some form of experience. The best outcome here would actually end up leading to an increase in the minimum wage for everyone, because everyone coming out of school is already going to have the experience that people who've left school 5-10 years before, when this system starts running up, everyone who had passed them and had come before that system would have about the same, they would be classified as having basically the same experience as these kids because of how they're taught. So that would remove that requirement from most fields. They would learn a variety of skills outside of their topic as well, which would be even more of a boost. So the minimum wage would have to be forced to increase. But yeah, so it would increase both the pay for students, the pay for teachers, and the minimum wage for people coming out of schools. Anyway, so yeah, that's the end of that. Yeah. That's how I think that the school system can be improved. Oh yeah, also one more thing. Most learning can be done in about 2 to 3 weeks. So even if you didn't want to teach student note-taking at a young age, at least give them some idea of it early on, and then change the secondary school thing to it starts off in the year 7 or year 8, learning note-taking skills, learning how to find information, and learning how to put their stuff in their own words, and learning revision. That's what the first 2 years should be spent on, and then the rest, first year should be spent on maybe, or first half a year. And then for the rest of it would just, long-term benefits, okay? It would help you all the way throughout university, whatever else. That's literally what I started on. I don't know why I didn't. Anyway, yeah, that's everything.